Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Makeover Monday, everyone. It's Monday, and it's Monday is a chance for us to go inside, figure out what we didn't do well last week, pick ourselves up and start over. It's a new day. It's a new chance to have a complete makeover, make some better choices this week, upgrade the quality of our existence. And Kaustubha and myself, and I'm trying to get Mara on this train right now too, our Makeover Monday train, which is no phones whatsoever until our morning program is over. That's going to be our thing. We don't even look.
For me, it's not just phone, it's the computer. It's more of an issue with me, right?
Wait, are you trying to one-up me, Kaustubha? For me, it's not my phone or my computer. I also don't pick up my landline either.
I was not trying to one-up you. I was just trying to clarify.
You thought I was like on my computer? Okay, I can't be on my phone. I'm gonna go to Instagram on my computer.
Yeah, but no, the digital detox. That's the idea.
It's a digital detox, especially the first damn thing you wake up in the morning with. The problem is because these phones now they're your alarm clocks. They're your weather. Remember when you had all separate gadgets for all those things? Stick your head out the window and check the thermometer. You know, I don't know who does that. It's all check your phone, check your phone, check your phone. Turn on the news. No one does that. It's all on their phone. So people sleep with their phone. Anyway, Mary, are you in?
Yeah, I'm in. I'll do it.
Are you serious?
Okay.
Yep.
You guys all right? The Wisdom of the Sages team have committed. Okay. Well, we had a great show yesterday with our on guest day with Goramani. She was great, wasn't she?
I thought she was really great. Yeah. What a person. Special person, right?
What a great person. I'm going to send my daughter on tour with her, I think. This is your new auntie. Goodbye. Off to the far, off on tour for thousands of devotees. Everybody from Wisdom of the Sages is really inspired. And I had a great time. I don't know if I said this on the air yet, but I had a great time meeting all the Wisdom of the Sages people that I never met. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For me, thinking about her, it was just further confirmation of the principle how bhakti spreads from one person to another, and how, her as a young lady, she just got, like Indra Prabhu, she was saying that there's this kirtan leader, Indra Das, right?
Right.
Now Indra Das is like this almost like fierce renunciate. I mean, not almost, like he was this fierce renunciate.
Fierce renunciate sort of had a fierce, demeanor. He's sort of like,
like no nonsense. And he wasn't afraid to call you out, to kind of let, he could be really strong like that.
It was strong. He wasn't like cruel or rude. I mean, It makes it sound like he was just like just a renunciate. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't want people.
But there are different types. Like some renunciates are just always very gentle and not confronting. But he was like he would confront.
Yeah.
And but as a young lady, for her not to be in any way afraid of that, and to just really understand his essence of what he was offering, this deeper realizations about mantra and about kirtan, and to fully embrace it and then be empowered by him, and now she chants in front of hundreds of thousands of people and got millions of followers online. It's just like, I really see that as a testament to that principle that whoever we are in whatever circumstance we're in, find people that you really admire in the world of bhakti, and try to imbibe what they're offering, and try to, in a sense, try to please them. Try to like serve them and please them and understand them, and blessings come that way.
Yeah, she's definitely empowered, and it just shows, how you do your bhakti. It's beautiful to see people doing their bhakti, and it comes out in such a wonderful way.
And when you mentioned something like Sachi sending her, I could see Sachi like being empowered by someone like her, you know?
Yeah, Sachi, come on. Sachi had a hard weekend. She's watching all the kids. All right, so let's get on with our show. Also, do you want to share something else? You know, a great soul in me and Kaustubha's life had recently passed away over the weekend. I think it was actually during the show we got the news for it.
Yeah.
He was this, you know, incredible leader, and not just a leader, but he one of those person that led by example. And sometimes you think of a leader, it's sort of like, okay, everybody, let's go, let's do this. Like one of these, who was the football coach, Lombardi?
Vince Lombardi?
Yeah, Vince Lombardi. Like that's what a leader is. No. This guy was like gentle, like a rose petal, but such a big leader and contributor to the world of bhakti.
Yeah.
Do you want to share something a little bit about his passing before we could?
Yeah, well, you know, you were very busy all weekend, you know, because you had a retreat going on there and everything. I didn't, and it really gave me a chance to think about him, you know, and also to read, because around the world, you know, people are sharing their thoughts and their eulogies, and to read those and think about him more. But like you were saying, it's right. He was a leader. But what I see you know, because it is wise to think, how do I want to be remembered, right? And how will I live now so that I'll be remembered that way? How you know, do I need to think about that? You know, I think we all do, you know. And when I see how people remember him, he was learned. He was a scholar, you know. He was a translator of Sanskrit texts, you know, or translating Prabhupada's English into Bengali. He translated all of Prabhupada's books like that, and he was learned, and he had a position of managerial power, but that's not what people remember him for.
Right.
It's what people really remember him for is his behavior, the sweetness in his behavior, and the dignity with which he conducted himself with, you know, to always, you know, he embodied the behavior of a deeply spiritual soul, a real Vaishnava, a real Bhakti-yogi. No one thinks of him as being angry or cruel or materialistic in any way, judgmental. You know, people remember him as being this gentle, kind, dignified. Everyone uses the word gentleman because, you know, that's really what he embodied. So that's really, you know, that's something that I can't help but think about more and more in his absence. What a special, kind soul he was. And there's a painful part of it, how he passed away, because he passed away of COVID and he was in a hospital and he was alone.
Was he?
And yeah, as far as I understand, yeah. And, you know, he had Prabhupada's kirtan playing and he had the Bhagavatam with him there and, you know, these different holy art. But, you know.
There was no devotee doctors there?
I don't believe so.
Oh.
And you know, what it means to be.
You can't go to the hospitals, right?
Yeah.
Devotees can't go in the hospitals and just hit
Or
him.
if they were, it was very limited. It wasn't like they were there with him all the time. And, you know, to be on one of these ventilators, it's actually a very painful, uncomfortable, you know, circumstance. And then one by one, his different organs began to fail. He had a heart attack, his kidneys failed. It was, you can imagine how rough it was. But knowing him, knowing the level of his consciousness, I can so easily imagine him passing through this, just seeing it, being completely capable of seeing it all as God's mercy and embracing it that way, and letting go of his body, letting go of this world, and, you know, and returning to the spiritual world. I can, you know, I can feel that. And, you know, I had the chance to read one of his something that he wrote to his guru, to Srila Prabhupada, you know, long after Prabhupada passed away. This was in 2012. On the birthday of the guru, you know, the disciples, they write offerings. And he wrote an offering where he was sharing his memories of his times with his guru and the different instructions that he received. And he just, you know, he was such a unique story because he met Prabhupada just shortly before Prabhupada passed away. So it was only a year or two at the most or something like that he knew Srila Prabhupada. But he was very quickly kind of brought into his close circle and served him intimately, including cooking for him. And he said, you know, he wrote that one day as Prabhupada was becoming sicker and sicker and it was becoming clear that he was going to pass away soon, he said, "Why are you always cooking for me? Can't you see that I can't eat it?" And he said, "Oh, I'm cooking for you in the hopes that your appetite will come back and that you will eat." And he said, "You know, I'm hoping that you'll get better." And he said, "I'll get better when I leave this body." and he said he just broke into tears when he said that. And then Prabhupada said to him, "Is this what I've taught you? Haven't I taught you that we're not this body? Haven't I taught you, you know, that we're the soul, that we're eternal, that we're unchanged by all the external circumstances?" And then what Bhakti True Swami wrote was, he said, you know, back then when I was cooking for you and I was running around, I was doing all these things, I felt I had so many important things to do. And he said, now I feel like I've done the important things and I'm ready to go back to you. So, you know, would you give me that privilege? Please take me back. You know, he was a person. I thought a little bit about that time when you were on the Joe Rogan show and you mentioned that you went through that one experience where you felt you were near death and you were ready to go. And here was the person that was moving through this. He wrote that like 8 years ago, but you know, he's moving through the world, you know, doing his duties and living a real life and happy and serving and taking on challenges. But at the same time, he was ready to go. And so, you know, I get some solace from that, but it's a fact that, you know, even in his absence, his presence becomes more felt. And I can't help but think of him a lot and really be inspired by his example, by his teachings, especially his teachings through his example. You're muted, Raghunath.
I'm glad you got to reflect this week.
Yeah.
You know, we had a whole retreat there, so it wasn't at the forefront of my mind. You seem like you had a really deep connection with the passing. If you're new to all this stuff, when people practice bhakti, one facet of the bhakti culture is the leaving of great souls. This is a thing because we talk about our temporality of existence, and then when great souls leave this world, it's a whole thing, the disappearance of a great soul. And we start to think about, we start to reflect on their life. Like it's actually like we just had Guru Purnim recently, where we honor the Guru. There's also the Vyasa Puja, which means it's your Guru's birthday, basically. And you honor Vyasadeva, like what we say every morning, which we forgot to say, by the way. Our prayers to Vyasadeva, because the Guru represents Vyasadeva. But there's also this other type of, you know, you can't really call it a holiday, but I guess it's a holy day, is the disappearance of the Guru. And what it does, like we see in Kaustubha, he's feeling all this strong sentiment. And anyone who is connected with Maharaj has all this very strong sentiment to the passing of a great soul. And it manifests all these, you know, quality. What we do is we remember the greatness of their qualities. And we think, oh, wow, who was this person? What they left to you? How you want to sort of, like we're having Makeover Monday this week. What do I want to do? What do I need to adjust in my life so I can live like that?
Yeah.
You're right. And that's sort of like, it's a somber, it's a grave time, but it's not, sometimes people die in the material world and they've done some like really crazy criminal things but when these great souls leave this world, it's a time for deep inner reflection. And it's a big part of our culture. There's like, we played the song the other day for passing of great souls. Yeah, it's a special time, and it's part of our own personal evolution, is a grave and somber remembrance. And for me, it makes me really think. You never do that meditation where you're at your own funeral and people are coming forward. It's people come up, your best friend, your spouse,
yeah.
A friend, a colleague from work, and they're going to give a eulogy about you,
Right.
what are they going to say? Are they going to say, my father was a jerk, he never, you know what I mean? Or my husband, he never was around, or wasn't there for me, was not understanding. What will the people who are very dear to you now, what will they say to you? What will they say about you, in all honesty, at the time of when you die, in a eulogy?
Mm-hmm.
And it sort of makes you think about what legacy you want to leave. Anyway.
It's a great meditation.
Yeah, it's a great meditation.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go into the Bhagavatam.
Oh, we're hearing here on a chat board that one of Bhakti Swami's disciples was able to be somehow they made an exception. He was able to be with him for that last hour, chanting with him Brahma Samhita and various mantras. So that's so nice to hear.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah,
that's nice at the 11th hour, and yeah, that's
great, beautiful soul.
Thank you.
Thank you
for sharing that, Kaustubha. Yeah. I love all these people on Wisdom and the Sages Zoomers. Just looking at these faces, we got a really good group here, don't we? Damodar Priya is here live too as well.
Oh, great.
She was great this weekend. All right, let's start. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad-Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the personality of Godhead, Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam, and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service to the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnanatamrandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasma Shri Gurave Namaha. All right, Kaustubha.
Yeah. So, when we were last with the Bhagavatam on Friday,
yeah,
we went back a little bit because I said there were certain commentaries that we skipped over there's just some really nice stuff there worth reading.
Yeah.
And so I thought, why don't we go back a little bit?
Yeah.
If you don't mind. And so we read one of those commentaries, and I wanted to go back and read another one. This is Canto 1, Chapter 15, text number 31. And this is, again, because there was just a few verses that were describing Arjuna's consciousness, that although he was suffering from the loss of Krishna, he was able to remember the Bhagavad Gita, the teachings that Krishna gave him on the battlefield, and how that transformed his consciousness.
Kaustubha, can I say something? Kaustubha's about to read a commentary.
Okay.
And the commentaries are written by the great souls who've really dove deep into the Bhagavatam. That's how we learn this stuff. So when you told me this morning, me and Kaustubha have a pre-meeting before the show, and when you said
I don't know if I'd call it a meeting, but whatever.
It's a top secret meeting we have. We have the cone of silence on our heads. No one even knows what that is. Anyway, it reminded me of a verse that we read over the weekend at the Seva retreat, and I'm going to read that to you first. Is that okay? It's from the Bhagavatam.
Yep.
It's been ever read a verse and you're like, can't stop thinking about this verse. So we were having satsang every morning and night, and this one was one of them. This is from the 10th canto. It's the 10th canto, text 4. Glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is performed in the parampara system. So that's what we're doing. We're hearing it from the guru to disciple. And that's why we become empowered, and that's why Gauramani was empowered. She was inspired. We are getting empowered from reading these purports. It's the great souls are giving us their deep instruction from what they're reading. We're not just like picking up a book randomly, going through it. We're hearing from the gurus to disciple. So glorification of the personality of Godhead is performed in the parampara system. That is, it is conveyed from the spiritual master to disciple. Such glorification is relished by those who no longer are, those no longer interested in the false temporary glorification of the cosmic manifestation. Isn't that a great verse? Descriptions of the Lord are the right medicine for the conditioned soul undergoing repeated birth and death. We're taking so many different types of medicine in this material world. This is the medicine we need to hear.
That's
Therefore,
great.
who will cease hearing such glorification of the Lord? Isn't that beautiful?
What verse number was that?
That was text 4. That was from Advent of Lord Krishna, text 4.
So chapter 1,
Chapter 1.
Canto
text 4.
10,
Text 4.
chapter 1, text 4. Yeah, that great stuff. And, you know, relate, you know, okay, so that called like hearing Bhagavatam, hearing these sacred texts, it's like medicine, right? A medicine that is like perfectly suited for addressing the malady which we're all suffering from, our illusion and our suffering, etc. Now we're going to hear another interesting term in this, and this is what, well, I'll read the verse. This is, again, Canto 1, chapter 15, text 31. And it's saying, now Arjuna was in this state of, you know, apparent confusion and suffering and experiencing loss, grief. And but it says, this is what the verse is. It says, because of his possessing spiritual assets. All right, let's focus. Let's draw a circle right around that term right there, right?
A good one. Spiritual assets.
Spiritual assets. Because of his possessing spiritual assets, the doubts of duality were completely cut off. Thus, he was freed from the three modes of material nature and placed in transcendence. There was no longer any chance of his becoming entangled in birth and death, for he was freed from material form. So what were his spiritual assets? I mean, particularly was that he had heard that Bhagavad Gita, right? That you hear this wisdom. Just like you took that verse, right? Now that's a verse that potentially you could memorize. Or at very least, it's a verse that you can go back to again and again and think about and apply in your life. That's a spiritual asset, right? It's something that you can carry with you, preserve, you know, and derive benefit from, right? We move through this world trying to collect material assets.
Yeah, but I'm not doing so good at that.
but the wise person, they're very carefully collecting spiritual assets. They're actually the biggest misers of them all, right? They're just like collecting these things and storing these things. But what are they collecting and what are they storing? It may be a relationship, you know.
A spiritual relationship.
It may be a spiritual relationship.
My
it may
spiritual asset, Kaustubha.
I'm sorry?
You're my spiritual asset.
As you are mine. It may be a particular service that I do, right?
Right.
I learned how to, you know, another thing about Bhakti Shri Swami is, and so many people were sharing, he was managerially, socially, you know, externally, he had the highest positions in the spiritual community in which he lived, right? He was, you know, socially, he was a sannyasi, which is considered, you know, like the final stage of life. And it's the most respected, you know, external role, right? When the sannyasi, you know, enters the room, everybody bows down. They show respect, you know,
right, for the,
you know, and he was a guru, you know, and managerially, he was a member of the governing body commission, which is like, so within that within the organization of the International Society for Krishna, he had the highest managerial position, you know. So externally, he had all these, you know, he was like a big shot.
Right.
But he really, his inner mood, he did almost all of us, as soon as we get any little position like that, we become proud of it and we identify with it and we try to, you know, we live in that illusion of it, and we try to derive some kind of satisfaction from the position.
Right.
But the position that he wanted was the position of servant. And so what many people were saying was he knew how to cook well, you know? And so he was always eager to cook for the devotees, whether it was like a small group or a large group. He preferred to step out of the role of the big shot and become the servant and cook for others. So that cooking became a spiritual asset. I know how to please the devotees. When I cook for the devotees and I make a nice offering, and then I offer to them, and then in their hearts, they feel kindly disposed to me, and they think of me as their friend and their servant, and I get their blessings. Now that cooking's become a spiritual asset, right? It's something that I can do to deepen my spiritual connection. And but also, like that verse that you read, that verse becomes a spiritual asset. For Arjuna, hearing Bhagavad Gita from Krishna, he gave him that ultimate spiritual asset. So this is the commentary, or parts of the commentary anyway. And it says, doubts from duality, because the duality was like, oh no, you know, Krishna was here and now he's gone. You know, oh no, my loved one is here and now they're gone. Oh no, I had wealth and now it's gone. You know, that duality. But the spiritual asset of the wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita brought him beyond that. So it says, doubts of duality begin with the misconception of the material body, which is accepted as the self by less intelligent persons. The most foolish part of our ignorance is our identifying this material body with the self. Everything in
That's it, right there.
It's the core. It's right. It's the one illusion from which so many illusions spring from that. Right. Once I think I'm this body, then I think happiness is satisfying the body, and then I start to, you know,
Identify with the culture of the body.
the culture. Well, he's going to get into
Italian
that.
American male.
Here you go. Listen, everything in relation with the body is ignorantly accepted as our own. Doubts due to misconceptions of myself and mine. In other words, my body, my relatives, my property, my wife, my children, my wealth, my country, my community, and hundreds and thousands of similar illusory contemplations cause bewilderment for the conditioned soul. By a similar,
You're going to relate. Can I just
yes,
butt in, ski in?
please do.
You're going to relate to a community. But if the community is also based on body identification, you're just not getting the whole picture, and you're always creating others, those who are not part of that community. So it's a community based on the soul. So someone could argue, Mara could say, well, this is just a community based on, you know, okay, it's based on the spirit, but there's still people out there that don't identify it. Yes, but in our vision, we're still seeing them as part of our community. We see, even with our vision, our enemies as part of our community. Like we're just training the mind to see everybody in the with a common denominator, like a what's it called, a Venn diagram,
It's Fibonacci spiral. I don't know.
Fibonacci
Why
spiral?
don't you just throw Fibonacci spiral in there?
It's a Fibonacci spiral. I'm just saying we see a common denominator in every living being.
Yeah.
We reduce it down to spirit, and therefore,
The community expands.
Yes.
A community based on spirit rather than based on body.
Yeah, which is always going to keep, like, for example, if you base it on, whatever, Irish American, Afro American, Italian American, there's always going to be people who can't join your club. I want to join your club, Kaustubha. What's your mother's, what are you, Cuban, Italian?
You're not in.
I'm not in the club.
My mother's Mexican. My
Italian.
father's
I can't
Italian.
join that club. I want to join your club.
You're in, Raghunath, on the spiritual level.
That's what I'm talking about. We got to go to spirit.
Right.
We have to go to spirit.
Okay. So, so by assimilating by assimilating the instructions of Bhagavad Gita, that was Arjuna's spiritual asset. That can be our spiritual asset. By assimilating the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita, one is sure to be released from such bewilderment, because real knowledge is knowledge that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, Lord Krishna, is everything, including oneself. So now this is that deeper wisdom now we're talking about. This is something we have to contemplate again and again to try to understand. Even my own self, my body, even my soul, me, myself, is all the energy of one divine source. You know, everything is a manifestation of his potency as part and parcel. The potency and the potent are non-different. So the conception of duality is at once mitigated by attainment of perfect knowledge. As soon as Arjuna took up the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita, expert as he was, he could at once eradicate the material conception of Lord Krishna, his eternal friend. He could realize that the Lord was still present before him by his instruction, by his form, by his pastimes, by his qualities, and everything else related to him. And then at the end of the commentary, Prabhupada continues, he says, one is not able to feel the presence of the Lord in all circumstances until one is endowed with the required transcendental vision made possible by devotional service prescribed in the revealed scriptures. Arjuna had attained this stage long before the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and when he apparently felt the absence of the Lord, he at once took shelter of the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita. And thus again, he was placed in his original position. This is the position of Vishoka, or the stage of being freed from all grief and anxieties. Right. I mean,
I was going to take some anxiety medication, but this is the actual medicine. This is the medicine. And you know, Mara, Kaustubha is the purport detective, isn't he? He knows how to read the purport and extract just what's relevant.
Yeah.
You are the ultimate sleuth, my friend.
There's almost nothing that you can't just take from it. That's not a spiritual asset, but for whatever reason, those are inspiring.
Pull it out and bring it to the forefront and give me that lesson I need.
Okay, Raghunath. So now let's go ahead and jump forward to where we had left off, I think, on Thursday, which is now we're picking up on text 39. And now it's describing that Yudhishthira, those verses are describing that Arjuna had already attained this state of complete spiritual knowledge beyond all dualities and suffering by meditating on those verses of the Bhagavad Gita. Now this chapter is entitled The Pandavas Retire Timely. And so now Yudhishthira, he's going to install his grandson, Maharaj Parikshit, who's going to become the central figure in the rest of the telling of the Bhagavatam. He's going to install him as the next king. He's qualified. He can handle it. He's ready to do it. And all the material responsibilities that I was embracing and in one sense identifying with, I'm going to let go of them, not only internally, but also externally now, so that the internal goes deeper. And now he's going to move on. He's going to let it all go. And so it mentions that, first it mentions who he put in place. So this is text 39. It said, he posted the son of Aniruddha, which is Krishna's grandson, at Mathura as the king of Surasena. Right? Now that Vajra, he was Krishna's great-grandson. He was Krishna's great-grandson, and he established temples that are still there today, right, in Vrindavan.
Those 365 deities have them carved, and they're sprinkled around all of India, and some are missing, and some get unearthed at different times. Yeah. All the famous deities in our lineage were carved by this person, Vajranab, thousands of years old. And sometimes they even say, like, well, this temple dates back, to 800 BC, but it's not the temple. The deity has been worshipped there. The temples have come and go, but the deity has been worshipped there forever, practically speaking.
Well, and this is 5,000 years ago, roughly. Yeah.
It's very interesting.
The Dauji temple, I know, in Vrindavan. You ever go to that Dauji temple at Govardhan?
Yeah. Yeah.
Also Haridev, I think the Haridev temple.
Haridev is one of the ones. Yeah. There's that secret Kaliya temple.
The secret Kaliya temple, that's right.
There's Gopinath.
Okay. Yeah.
Hoping not
So,
to-
so Yudhishthira installed him there as the kind of the king of Mathura. And then he said, afterwards, Maharaj Yudhishthira performed the Prajapatya sacrifice and placed himself in the fire for quitting household life. And there's just I just want to read a little bit from this purport, but it's so nice how Prabhupada expresses. He says, everyone's life must be so arranged that at the last stage of life, say the last 15 to 20 years prior to death.
That's sort of where I'm at right now, right?
Well, what, you're 54.
I'm 54, so 10 years would be 64. Throw on 5.
So 15, he said, that would be about, you'd be 69 to 74.
My father and my grandfather died at 64. There's every good reason I got 10 years left.
No. There's a difference, Raghunath. There's a very important difference. You know what that difference is?
No? What?
Lord Shiva is protecting you.
I know, but he might protect me right out of this world. He might protect me. That doesn't mean he's going to keep my mortal frame.
No, he is. He's keeping your mortal frame.
But I think it's good. Can I share something? I had this astrologer. Trust me, this is good. I had this astrologer do my chart.
That means don't stop me, Kaustubha.
Don't stop.
Let me go off on my tangent.
I had this astrologer do my chart in 1991, and I've been used it my whole since then, and it's been incredibly accurate. Talk about my music career, talk about my household life, talk about traveling, it's like one thing after another, but I never refer to it. Maybe once every 2 years I dig it out of the file cabinet and read. I was like, yep, that happened. Yeah, it's like that. And so this year, just recently, I pulled it out because I remember it saying something about you will associate with politicians. It said this 30 or 20 in 1991. It said you'll associate with devotee politicians, and I thought, yeah, right, a devotee politician. And then I was in that text conversation with Tulsi Gabbard, and I'm thinking she's a devotee politician, just like my chart said. So I think I've got to read this and see what it says. But it started saying these things like, when you get into this period, which is coming up around the bend, your life airs will diminish and you have to focus on pranayama to maintain your health. And if you can make it through that period, you'll go into another very powerful period, but it seems foggy from here. And I was like, foggy? What does that mean, foggy? And I started to realize, like, yeah, man, even the astrologer, like, I got to start thinking about whatever. I know, yeah, we don't want to think like that. Yeah, you've got longer time to live. No. It could end at any moment, Raghu. So I'm hearing this as a loud, how we call it, a death knell.
Death knell, okay.
A death knell. Like,
well,
right,
I think
what death knell is?
Yeah, you want me to look it up?
Death knell. A knell.
Roll off your tongue, the death knell.
Knell is the sound of a bell, especially when rung solemnly for a death or funeral.
That's exactly what I thought it would be.
Death knell, bang, like they hear the death knell.
Like someone's coming after you, ringing the bell.
like the Grim Reaper
coming for you.
One hand he's got the scythe, and one hand he's ringing a bell, banging on the door with the scythe for me.
It said that you should do your sadhana as if you're going to die tomorrow, but you should study as if you're going to live forever. So let us do both, right?
Say that again.
I think it's usually said the other way, that you should study as if you're going to live forever. Like, never think like, oh, well, I'm only going to live 50 more years, so there's no point in me studying this.
Right. I'm going to study, live forever.
You study as if you're going to live forever. We should always be learning. But do your sadhana, do your spiritual practice, your meditation with the urgency, with the intensity, as if you're going to die tomorrow. That's
a great statement, Kaustubha.
It's a good one, right?
That can be part of our Makeover Monday thing. Say that every day.
Okay.
Say that thing. Mara, let's say that every day.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. And yeah, so in any case, I still think he's protecting you. You got Lord Shiva on your side.
Okay. Yes.
So now where was I?
You were reading me.
Everyone's life must be so arranged that at the last stage of life, say the last 15 to 20 years prior to death, can be absolutely devoted to the devotional service of the Lord to attain the highest perfection of life, right? So we've mentioned this before, right? That certain hours of the day should be exclusively devoted to one spiritual practice.
Yeah.
And certain days of the month should be exclusively devoted.
Yeah.
And certain months of the year should be exclusively devoted. That's when you take the wisdom of the sages, retreat or something like that.
Yeah.
And certain years of one's life should be exclusively devoted. So in the
But
early
Stuba,
life,
what do I do?
Oh,
I had children late in life.
your
I have a
whole life
6-year-old.
is your life is exclusively devoted.
If I died in 10 years, my 6-year-old's only gonna be 16. I'm gonna have to take him with me.
Install him on the throne right now.
You're in charge now, son. I'm only 6. Sorry.
Okay. So then he continues. It is really foolishness, Prabhupada is saying. It is really foolishness to engage oneself all the days of one's life in material enjoyment and fruitive activities, because as long as the mind remains absorbed in the fruitive work of material enjoyment, there's no chance of getting out from conditioned life or material bondage. All right?
Mm.
Just speaking the truth to us.
We're just thinking about, yeah.
Okay. Text 40. Would you like to read it, Raghunath?
I want to do over, Kaustubha. I want to do over. I hate when I say that because the universe is like, oh, you want to do over? Great. You can take birth again. We'll do you over. But I just...
You're doing well, Raghunath. You're doing great.
These purports are talking to me today.
Well, this next one is really great too. So
Text 40.
text 40.
Maharaj Yudhisthira at once relinquished all his garments, his belt. He really
Must have had a special belt,
It
right?
must have been like a diamond.
King's belt.
King's belt.
Yeah.
And ornaments of the royal order. Jewels, bracelets.
Sure, you're starting to think about
I'm trying to think
metal
what
detector again.
Bringing the metal detector to Kurukshetra. You thought that was a good one?
That was unusual.
Well, me and the kids are always thinking about metal detecting. We got a metal detector. And whenever I go somewhere, like, we should bring the metal detector. So that we were thinking at the Battle of Kurukshetra, there's probably incredible finds you could find.
Yeah.
But yes, Maharaj Yudhisthira at once relinquished all his garments, belt, ornaments of the royal order, and became completely disinterested and unattached to everything.
Okay. So he is here both literally and figuratively. He's releasing all of the attachments or all the material designations, right? This is the king's belt. This is the king's crown. I'm taking them off and I'm never going to put them on again. Right?
And if you think about a king, we don't really have this. We don't dress that. Maybe we do.
Well, for
According
different, guy wears a suit to go to work or, whatever it is.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not going to wear this. Yeah. Especially if you have very expensive clothing, expensive watches. Some men, I guess women too, but I just know some men who just like very expensive watches.
Well, when you work in certain, like if you work on Wall Street and you rise to certain, you have to dress like a certain way. And there's a whole code to it, only certain ones are allowed to wear like there's a striped shirt with just a white collar.
Right.
And like only when you've risen to this level do you wear that. And they have to wear a big fancy watch and they have to, it's like, it's all part of that identity that they embrace and the role that they play.
Drive the right car. So imagine what a king has to wear. Now he's starting taking off. This is what I presented myself publicly as. And now, crown is off, scepter, various rings.
These are all the things you want to find with your metal detector. Scepter. It's a scepter. I found a scepter.
I would love to find a scepter. I follow so many metal detecting Instagram things. You wouldn't believe it if you were a scroll.
Okay. Now, so this commentary is about shedding those external those external symbols, but even more importantly, shedding the false designations that we embrace, the temporary designations that we embrace in this life. That we have to be ready that at a certain point in life, I'm going to not only internally let go, but entirely let go of them. Right. So he says, this is from Prabhupada's commentary. He says, to become purified of material contamination is the necessary qualification for becoming one of the associates of the Lord, right? From finding that eternal destination, that eternal identification. No one could become an associate of the Lord and can go back to Godhead without such purification. Maharaj Yudhishthira, therefore, to become spiritually pure, at once gave up his royal opulence, relinquishing his royal dress and garments. The kashaya, or saffron loincloth of a sannyasi, indicates freedom from all attractive material garments. And thus he changed his dress accordingly. You know, how we dress has a lot to do with our material identity. And so he said, I'm going to let go of all the kinks, and I'm just going to put this wrap, you know, this simple wrap around me. I'm no longer going to dress that way. He became disinterested in his kingdom and family, and thus became free from all material contamination or material designation. People are generally attached to various kinds of designations. The designations of family, society, country, occupation, wealth, position, and many others. As long as one is attached to such designations, he is considered materially impure. Doesn't mean that you can't play those roles, but when we're attached to them, right? But now at the end of a life, you give up the roles as well. The so-called leaders of men in the modern age are attached by national consciousness, but they do not know that such false consciousness is also another designation of materially conditioned soul, of the materially conditioned soul.
Wow. Read that again, Kaustubha. Read that again. That's so timely.
In one sense, it's always timely, but sure, it's very timely.
Truth is always timely.
Yeah. The so-called leaders of men in the modern age are attached by national consciousness, but they do not know that such false consciousness is also another designation of the materially conditioned soul.
And it burns. It burns.
You know, quite frankly, when Prabhupada wrote this was, you know, he was speaking about India's leaders at that time.
The Cold War also, and all right.
But I think especially he was speaking about India's leaders at that time because they were glorified for their national consciousness, because they just had their revolution and all of that. He says one has to relinquish such designations before one can become eligible to go back to Godhead. Foolish people adore such men who die in national consciousness. But here's an example of Maharaj Yudhishthira, a royal king who prepared himself to leave this world without such national consciousness. And yet he is remembered even today because he was such a great pious king. And so when I hear this commentary, you know, I think of a verse, and here's another spiritual asset, right? A verse, you know, when Prabhupada quotes verses often in his lectures or in his commentaries, you can understand there's a spiritual asset right there, right? There's a spiritual asset to collect. And there's one verse that what do we call false designations in Sanskrit, Raghunath? Or should we hit Mara with that as a hot seat question? Mara, do you know that Sanskrit word for false designations? No?
No.
Okay, well, you'll remember it from this day on.
Yes.
Once Raghunath shares with us. Raghunath?
Ahankar?
No.
False designations? Give me a hint.
Ahankar is that force that moves us towards identifying false. But
False
you know
designations. False designations. I'm looking at Damodar Priya and Uragaya right here. They're just like nodding. So good. I thought I was the only dullard. We're all dullards here. Enlighten us.
But upadi.
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 I thought that was a type of Punjabi roti.
Give me a few upadis with
I'll
that.
take 2 upadis with some ghee.
Put some makan on there.
The makan and some.
And I'll take that with the palak paneer.
Cauliflower pakoras, please.
So there's a famous verse with that word upadi. Do you know that verse?
Mara?
It's a spiritual asset. Mara?
I'd like to pass this to my good friend Mara.
I do, but I'm going to bring it to me. Sarvopadi Vanir Muktam.
Gotcha.
Taparat Vena Nirmalam. Hrishikena Hrishikesha. Sevanam bhaktir uchate.
Uchite. I got uchite.
Sarvopadi. Sarva means?
All.
All. So sarva upadis, all the upadis, vinir muktam, you have to become free from them all. And tat parat vena nirmalam, hrishikesha, I'll read the translation. Bhakti, or devotional service, means engaging all of our senses in the service of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the master of all the senses. So I take my Hrishikena, my own senses, and I engage them in the service of Hrishikesha, the Lord of the senses. When the spirit soul renders service unto the Supreme, there are two side effects. Okay? You ready for the side effects? You're muted, really. Yeah, okay.
Yes. I mute myself because sometimes I just make weird noises.
Okay.
It's part of getting older. It's like,
One, here are the two side effects from bhakti. Right? One is freed from all material designations. That's the first one. Sarvapati Vanir Muktam.
Free from material designations.
And one's senses are purified simply by being employed in the service of the Lord.
Who are you employed by? Who's your employer?
The Lord.
The Lord. Thank you. I haven't been serving the Lord, so I'm getting unemployment right now.
So that verse is from the Narada Pancharatra, from Narada. And it's quoted in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, or Srila Prabhupada translated that as the nectar of devotion. But a very essential verse to understand that the way that this yoga is practiced is that I take my senses, including my mind, and I engage them in the service of the Lord of the senses, in the service of Krishna. And by doing so, my material designations, I become freed of them. That's the way the process is meant to work, right? And also my senses become purified, that underneath my material senses, I have spiritual senses, and those come to the forefront. But this, this whole thing about upadis is they prevent us from entering into the deeper level of bhajan. We need, and that's why some of those rituals that we do as in the practice of bhajan, like the daily rituals, like Raghunath does his puja every day. You do this Buddha Shuddhi before. You do a meditation of letting go, at least for this time, for the next half hour that I'm going to do this ritual. Let me let go of all of my material designations for this time and exist in my spiritual existence without identifying with any of these temporary things. And it's in that state that one can enter into what's really called bhajan, not just puja, right? But bhajan, that I'm connecting with God deeply without any, naked in one sense, naked of all my material. Don't take that too far, Raghu. Okay. Don't show up for wisdom of the sages without any clothes on. Sure.
Hey, listen, all this talk about upadis is making me hungry.
Okay. So then maybe it's time for breakfast.
Okay. All right. Well, sir, let me tell you about this.
Yeah.
I gotta be on the button there. Thanks everybody for joining us. Wisdom of the Sages is what do we call it again? A community-supported podcast. Okay. Thank you everybody who's joined our podcast community through patreon.com/wisdom of the sages, patreon.com/wisdom of the sages. And we have a real cool community going on there. We have an incredible wealth of yoga resource. We have live teachers, great teachers. So many people listening to the show are empowered teachers within their own community. And we got special encouragement to get some European teachers too. So we're going to do that as well.
Okay.
Time zones. But we have workshops. If you join Patreon, we have these workshops on Ayurveda, on natural living, on meditation, on chanting, on Sanskrit. So that's all archived. People are dropping out of their local yoga studios and just signing up for our Patreon account. And you can join for anything. You can join for $1. And then if you're getting something out of it and you feel like, oh, this is significant, then if you want, then you can give more. But we want to do it just so everybody can get in, and I tell you, I've been really offline a lot. And this is the only online thing I do because I like looking at these spaces. I like the conversation. I like the community, and I'm happy to be here. I'm getting ready to ban all
happy-
social
wait.
media from my life.
You're gonna do what?
You guys are my social media. You guys are my social life. I'm hanging out with you guys. And every now and then we get together with our masks on and we have kirtan. But anyway, thanks. Kaustubha, thanks for your association, Mara.
Thank you, Raghunath.
Thanks to everybody who came and helped out at our Sable weekend at Super Soul Farm. It was wonderful.
Hey, got to be mentioned. Madhu today at 1 p.m. Mara's reminding us.
Madhu's on today?
Yeah, that's going to be like a second part of his introduction to devotional music and kirtan and all that, right?
Devotional music. So if you'd like to check that out, what time, Mara?
1 p.m.
1 p.m. on patreon.com/wisdom of the sages. Join Madhu live. If you can't make it at 1, boom, you got it archived. You can hear that later on in the week when it's convenient. Thanks, everybody. Join us late on Zoom. And good morning to you. Now it's time to sing.
Lip sync.
Kurta, Surya G, Stephanie Daniello, Ashley Rodriguez, Golden Brown family just cruised up on their stand-up paddle boards. Secret love.